I've been traveling for the better part of 20 years, and there is so much that goes into planning every single trip. What to pack, the gear that's worth carrying, the actual logistics part of it, getting through the airport. And so in an effort to make traveling easier, we asked you guys to send in your most pressing travel questions, the ones you can never seem to get a straight answer to, and you delivered. In today's video, I am answering some of your most burning travel questions and giving you my straight answers. All right, let's get into it. G Cubed Productions asks, how do you find affordable, reliable, and safe accommodations in Europe, especially in non-touristy areas? That is a loaded question. Location is like the first thing going through my mind as I'm thinking about accommodations in Europe. Now, I'm gonna use some broad language here. Obviously, every country, every city is different, but generally, I am trying to be located in or near Old Town. And I do a lot of research on this before each of the trips we do. That is probably one of the things I spend most of my mental energy on after trying to figure out flights and things like that. It's like, where in this city do I want to locate us, right? Because what you're optimizing for in your accommodations is, how do I put myself in the path of as much of the magic about this place as possible, as easily as possible. And I don't want to be right in the middle of like the most touristy part of town. I'm trying to find one of the quieter ones that still has a lot of that local charm and ambiance, okay? Location, that's the first thing. And I will say there's a couple of blogs that are very helpful in this space. One that I've used a bunch of times is called Santorini Dave, I believe. If you just Google what are the best neighborhoods to stay in XYZ, and then if you have a particular niche you could fit yourself in for families, for insert XYZ interest. Now, affordable, reliable, safe. Affordability really comes down to what type of accommodations are you looking at. Of course, the neighborhood has a bearing on how much something is going to cost. Time of year has a bearing on how much something is going to cost. A really great affordable option in a lot of European cities is finding family-run, mid-range hotels and bed and breakfasts, working direct with those families. You know, one of my things for years was, I'm a big Rick Steves fan, and I would look at the accommodations he suggests. A lot of times he offers a little discount code if you use his name. You just send them an email or give them a call, mention his name, and you'll get, 5, 10, 15% off. Now, in terms of reliability and safety, that all comes down to reading reviews and seeing the experience that other people have had. Go look at the negative reviews on Airbnb. Go look for the words and the themes that are consistently repeated. If it's brought up more than even, a couple times, that should be a red flag. By the way, if you've got a pressing travel question of your own, you can submit it using the link right below this video. We might just answer it in the next one. Okay, Sean asks, if you weren't a content creator, what size pack do you think your average travel pack would be? And how much do you think it would weigh? How does this compare to your current kit as a creator? If I weren't a content creator in this space, I think I would be carrying way more. That may not be the answer you expected, but having to deliver information in this space, having to learn about this space has forced me to continue to level up. There is a considerable amount of accountability in documenting what I'm doing, right? So for context, when I first started one bag traveling like 10 years ago, I was carrying the Osprey Porter 46, a 46 liter bag. Nowadays, everything I carry can realistically fit in the 30 to 35 liter range. And if I'm like really trying to push myself, 20 to 26. The easiest way to figure out what you need and what you don't is do a test pack and then live out of your bag for about a week to 10 days at home before your trip. I will say the process of me getting to what I currently carry has been a multiple year process of refinement and literally traveling with this stuff and then just realizing, you know what? I'm always packing this and I'm like panic packing this item, but it never comes out of my bag. Probably the best way to see everything I would bring is a video we made earlier this year called My Dream One Bag Travel Setup. That is the pack that I carried for about 3 weeks of travel. Honestly, that's what I carry pretty much every trip, whether it's a week long or 6 weeks long. If you want the full rundown, you should just go watch that video. Okay, speaking of the dream travel setup, one of the questions was, in your dream travel setup, you have cuts, clothing, shirt. Can you talk about them in comparison to the merino wool shirts you carry? Do you find them to be equal in quality, odor control, wearability, etc.? Yeah, good question, because I've not really talked much about those shirts. So I'm actually wearing one right now. Why are they in my bag? I like how they look and I like how they fit. That is pretty much it. These do not hold a candle to merino wool in terms of re-wearability, in terms of a lot of the problems that merino wool solves. You want to wash these after every wear. I'm the type of person that when I find something I like, I just get 100 of them. And so I've got a lot of these cut shirts. We talk a lot about nice gear that's like worth the splurge on this channel. I think this is like a real example of, in no way are these better than my preferred or my top recommended option, but I still like them and they arguably cost way less. And so, you know, I am a bigger fan of people using what you have than, you know, letting whatever gear you don't have be a deterrent. Okay, Milton asks, I've watched a lot of your videos of where to go and what to pack to get there, but what are some of the things you actually carry around the towns with you? Yeah, this is a great question. So some of the things that I am typically carrying with me: water, a phone. This case that's on my phone is by a company called Moment. Moment makes some filters, an ND filter, which if you don't know is basically like sunglasses for your phone. Very low profile and still very pocketable. I also use the Peak Design mobile tripod. It's about the size, the thickness of like a couple credit cards that just magnetizes to the back of the phone. It's got little legs that stick out, and so you can prop up your phone to get a shot like this. Typically a very, very lightweight rain jacket. And then the rest sort of depends on what my plan is for the day, right? If I'm gonna head to the coffee shop down the road to get a little bit of work done, I might be bringing my tech pouch with me. If we are out sightseeing in a particular city, I might have my guidebook or some pages from my guidebook with me. I've got sunglasses and then maybe headphones. All of that goes into a packable day pack of some kind. One I've used for years and years is the Osprey Ultralight Day Pack. We've mentioned a bunch here on our channel. We've made a video comparing a bunch of the best options. This is a type of bag that can just pack flat into your luggage, or a lot of them pack into themselves. So that's what I bring, and that's how I carry it. All right, moving into some questions about planning, logistics, and kind of destination-based topics. Okay, Matthew said he's traveling to Italy in January of 2027. This is my first international trip on my own. Awesome. It's a multiple city trip over 2 weeks. Any advice would be greatly appreciated. So, Matthew, first of all, if you're not subscribed to A Way Together, now would be the time, man, because we've made lots of videos that can help you. I don't know, based on the way you phrased your question, if this is your first international trip or if this is your first solo international trip. Here's a few things I think you should consider doing. You'll be grateful you did. 1, keep a journal. This is something I'm very glad that I have done for most of my travels, especially my early ones. Document the things you see. I'm just kind of listing out in a bullet point format the stuff we did, just so I don't forget. Don't overpack. I don't think you'll ever be glad looking back that you brought way too much stuff. You will probably encounter more stairs than you're used to. And so I would focus on getting what you're bringing with you into a much more manageable size. It can be worthwhile to have a way to communicate with folks back home. and also to have data signal of some kind. Another thing, since you specifically mentioned Italy, just research. If you're only doing big cities, probably not that big of a deal, but if you're venturing into any more rural type of areas, it can still be good, even in the year 2026, to carry some cash. I wouldn't go to the freestanding Euronet scam ATMs. I would go to an ATM at a bank and put your debit card in and get, a few €100 out just in case, for things like a taxi, some restaurants, etc. Carry less, make sure you are able to be reached and able to navigate, and figuring out how to pay for stuff in addition to documenting your time, I think is some of my best kind of broad advice I could give. All right, Connie asks, okay, so you have to have your passport out going through TSA. Then you want to secure it before heading through the scanner, but you've got people rushing you from behind and you can't put it in a pocket. What do you do with it? Or do you just delay the people behind you and don't worry about it? Do not let the people around you make you feel rushed, so much so that you're stressed that you do something stupid with that document. Your passport is the most important thing you're carrying with you, arguably. Second, designate a place that the passport always goes. You could also do what we do in my family, which is we designate a person. There is a single person that carries the passports on travel day that carries these documents for the whole family. So when we show airport security our identification, we move past that desk, then that person gets the passports, they go into the designated place, bags go through the scanner, we continue moving through the airport. All right, Holly asks, what do you use if you need to make and receive calls from the US when you're traveling abroad? I know Olafly for data, but what about calls? Just my home carrier, to be honest with you. We basically use eSIMs. Olafly's our eSIM of choice for data, their unlimited data plan, and that covers basically 95% of what we would need our phones for. If I need to make a phone call using my phone number, essentially what I do is just switch cellular data back on for my home carrier and make the call. That's for if I need to use my phone number. But there are a lot of ways to call people back home using your Wi-Fi based mobile data. Use things like FaceTime audio, WhatsApp audio, and I think even Facebook's Messenger. Holly, your name is dangerously close to Olafly, by the way. We just added a couple letters there. Are you an agent from Olafly? Okay, how early and how do you build your itinerary? So let me speak to the how do I build the itinerary part first. I'm gonna give you kind of the broad process because honestly, this is so in depth that it could be its own video. All right, so the very first question is, where do we want to go? Watching videos, kind of going through our own notes and our own sort of wish list. Identifying where is a big part of this. Next, when? What time of year is it great to visit that place? We're trying to balance good weather with low crowds. Then I'm asking, okay, how many days do we have to work with? And how many cities, kind of locations, do we want to visit? Then I'm focused on how do we get there. I'm trying to figure out flights, okay? So a big part of that for me, especially with most international multi-city travel, is am I doing a round trip or am I doing an open jaw? Am I flying into one city and then flying home from the other? There's pros and cons to either way you slice it. After flights, I'm focused on lodging. Big part of that is figuring out in all of these cities and places I've said I want to visit, what are the best neighborhoods or parts of the city that I want to locate myself in. Then I'm looking for lodging in that place. Then all we're really focused on is what do we want to do once we're there. And basically the division of labor in my household is I do everything through lodging. We as a family decide where we want to go, of course, but then I'm very focused on The big picture logistics, once we're there, my wife Allie is focused on the food and the fun. And she is way better at that stuff than I am. So in terms of how early, I will be very honest with you, this is kind of a personal thing. I am more last minute than most people are probably comfortable with, but this is my whole job. I would say, 3 to 6 months out is a good sweet spot, in my opinion, for planning international travel, but I can do it way more last minute than that. That's the very high level overview. If you guys would like to see me make a deeper dive on that topic, possibly even walk you through our literal planning of a trip we're gonna take, comment itineraries below and maybe we'll make that video. So much of what we get asked comes down to planning, where to stay, how to build the itinerary, what's actually worth booking. And if you're the person in your life who answers those questions for other people, the friend everyone asks before booking a trip, I wanna tell you about the sponsor of today's video, Fora. Fora is a modern travel agency built for people like you, people who genuinely love planning travel and helping the people around them travel well. Their platform lets you turn that into a real business as a travel advisor. When you become a Fora advisor, your subscription gives you access to professional booking technology, real industry training, and a global community of experienced advisors who actually share what's working. You're not figuring this out alone. And here's the thing, Fora advisors get access to over 7,000 preferred travel partners, hotels, cruise lines, boutique properties. And through those relationships, you can offer your clients real VIP perks, room upgrades, resort credits, late checkout, the kind of stuff that regular travelers don't always get access to. Every hotel, cruise, or activity that you book earns you a commission. So the trips that you've been helping plan anyway, you might as well get paid for it. Become a Fora advisor today at foratravel.com/YouTube or click the link in my description to learn more and become a Fora advisor. Big thanks to Fora for sponsoring today's video. Have you visited Costa Rica? Yes, and loved it. We went with some good friends in 2021. I believe we went to the Caribbean side and spent our time in a town called Puerto Viejo. Super chill, kind of laid back. We went whitewater rafting. That was a highlight of the trip. You can also go zip lining. We toured a cacao farm and just the diverse mix of our accommodations were basically in a jungle, but the beach was only 100 yards from our place. Was really, really cool. I liked that about the Caribbean side. The Pacific side, I believe, is where more people go. And I've heard that's beautiful as well. I don't think you can go wrong in Costa Rica. And in fact, I have a friend who owns a property on the Pacific side. I'm gonna link the info about his place below. If you mention A Way Together to him, I think he'll give you a little bit of a discount. So worth checking out for sure. But yeah, loved Costa Rica. All right, Daddy Rock 97 asked, I watched your 10-day Euro trip agenda. Before that, I was debating on a 9-day Euro trip, Split to Dubrovnik. Worth adding a city in Bosnia or Montenegro as a third stop, just trying to figure out plans for something not too complicated, flight back to Canada. Thanks. Well, congratulations, because you're going to one of my absolute favorite places in the world. In terms of Split to Dubrovnik, that sounds like a really lovely 9 days. I'm not sure the way you're getting there, but a great way to do it is to ferry from Split through some of the islands there to Var, to Korčula, and you could do that all the way from Split to Dubrovnik. Your question, worth adding a city in Bosnia or Montenegro as a third stop? 100% absolutely. I would also say add more time if you can, even a day or two. Now, if you can't, if you truly are only doing Split and Dubrovnik, here's what I would say, having spent extensive time in these areas. Split, awesome, love it. I think you can kind of do Split in a couple of days. Do 2 to 3 days Split, maybe 3 days Dubrovnik, and then allocate some additional days for Bosnia, Montenegro. You can easily day trip from Dubrovnik to Mostar in Bosnia. That could be a 1-day trip, or you could do like 1 or 2 nights there. Same story for the Bay of Kotor in Montenegro. That's, I think it's like less than 2 hours by car. And so you could either just really lengthen your time in Dubrovnik, set that up as a home base, and then plan on doing day trips, or you strategically turn one of those stops, Mostar or the Bay of Kotor, into a final base. And then, not knowing if you've booked flights out or not already, you could fly out of Tivat, which is the airport there for the Bay of Kotor, or obviously fly home from Dubrovnik. That is a more major airport, so you're likely to have better connections there. All right, Nikita, how do you maintain your health while traveling, such as overcoming jet lag, weather and diet differences, etc.? First of all, jet lag. We've made videos on this, but kind of the short and the long of it is I try to think about what time it is at my destination as soon as I'm at my destination. I never do the stuff that some people do, which is like, oh, it's 2 a.m. back home.
Stop it.
Don't think about that. It's what time it is where you are, okay? Get over it. The other thing I do is I think about light and its influence on our circadian rhythm. So if, let's say, I'm landing in the morning after an overnight flight, I am trying to get as much sunlight into my eye holes as possible, as soon as possible. And really those first couple of days, I'm just trying to force myself to get on the schedule. I would avoid caffeine late in the day. I've also found that exercise helps when you land. Get your body moving so that you're tired that first day and you can get a good night of sleep. Another thing you might try, and it kind of goes to the light component of it, light therapy lamps have seemed to help me with circadian rhythm. I have a little travel size one that I've been using. It's certainly an extra thing that not everybody has to carry around, but it does really work wonders. We'll link that below. In terms of health, diet differences, things like that, you know, when I travel, food is a big part of the experience for me, so I am not as worried about things like calories, macros, stuff like that. I'm just not. I'm trying to experience a new place through food. From a health standpoint, I do like to exercise when I travel. I'm the type of person I like to exercise on every day that ends in Y. And so if I'm staying at a hotel, I will usually go use their gym, or I'm a runner, and that's one thing I really like about running is it's portable. I don't need a whole bunch of equipment to pull that off. I just need some good shoes. All right, we're moving into a lightning round. Got a few questions. I'll try to answer them fast. First, I love this question. What is the backpack you will choose for the post-apocalyptic situation? If it's a zombie apocalypse, I think my question back to you would be, what type of zombies are we dealing with? Are they the slow type of zombies? Are we talking like the fast, scary World War Z swarm zombies? Because my bag preference is gonna change depending on the two. I'm gonna go with the GoRuck GR2. Fabi asks, how did this channel get started? Who came up with the idea? So I am the person you would have least expected to grow up and become a YouTuber. Never had aspirations to start a YouTube channel. I wanted to travel for an extended period of time. I went to my wife and said, hey, wouldn't it be crazy if we moved overseas for a year, and settled on 6 months? And so I thought we were gonna be the next Kara and Nate. We were vlogging. It really wasn't going well. Didn't have a video really go anywhere in this format until we made a video about how we packed for 6 months of full-time travel in nothing but carry-ons. That was our first video to go semi-viral. It was our first affiliate sale. It was the first time someone joined our email list. And that was the light bulb moment for me, because it was also the first video that was about helping others have better travel experiences. And knowing what I know now and seeing what this channel has become, what fills my cup an awful lot is getting to help other people and figure out how to be of use. Okay, Patty asks, I have a credit card with points. How do I transfer these points to another card? Can this not be done with every card? Patty, that's correct. This cannot be done with every card. But if your card earns a transferable points currency, there are some different things you can do. First of all, you can transfer these points to various airlines and hotels that are partnered with the card you have, right? And so typically that process is going to look like connecting the loyalty account of whatever airline to your card in your card's portal, and then transferring a specified number of points to those. The other thing you might be able to do is pool points with members of your household, or if you hold multiple types of cards within a specific bank. But there are lots of caveats here. As it relates to points and miles, credit cards, transfers, all that stuff, we actually have a second channel completely dedicated to this topic. It's called Away Together Travel Rewards. And somewhere on the screen, my editing team right now is putting the logo and a thing you can go click so you can check it out for yourself. Jarn940, what has been your biggest travel regret? What would you do differently if you could do it again? So I've made so many mistakes when traveling, and honestly, that's one of the reasons we do okay with this channel, is we can go make mistakes in the real world and then relay to you guys what doesn't work and or the how to avoid the pain. Regret. I don't really like thinking about things that way. I look at things as learnings, and I look at maybe what was the lesson here. But I would say a lot of my biggest travel lessons came from being underprepared. Some of the trips that I had the least fun on were the ones where I did the least planning, the least research. You know, when Allie and I got married, we took our honeymoon in Iceland, and we thoroughly enjoyed that trip. But if we could take that trip again today, we would do everything differently. The reason why is we were exhausted and busy from planning a wedding. I put zero energy into making that trip amazing. And so I think kind of the core message I would leave you with here, it's not gonna hurt to do your research, to do a little bit of extra planning. And if you have a question, to ask it, right? Feel free to hit the link in the form below if you have a travel question. And in the meantime, speaking of lessons learned, we actually just put out a video of the 5 biggest lessons that travel has taught me over the years, and you can check that out right here. Thanks so much for watching. Happy travels.